This was an odd game. If you just read the recap and you took the teams out of it, it would seem to stand that the Patriots won and were buttoned up and played a pretty okay game, and that the Steelers were much characteristic of themselves, just a little messy and a little sloppy with penalties. But it wasn't that way. What do you think was the key to the Steelers pulling out the win in this one, CC?
Well, there were a couple things. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they had the mentality. Ben Roethlisberger mentioned it as far as coming together as a team. The only way you can have a conversation with your teammates about coming together if you're not together. So the coaching staff, the players, they decided they played this game like a playoff game. This was the first week of their playoffs.
Yep.
And if they're going to be successful, I mean, they're going to have to win like 7 in a row to be able to get to the Super Bowl. But that was their mentality. You could see it as far as their focus. And you're not going to see a Patriot team that's going to be penalized 14 times over 100 yards. As you mentioned in the copy, that's a reversal of fortune as far as typically we would expect Pittsburgh in this type of game to do that. And for one team to be able to run the ball, the Pittsburgh Steelers were that team. One of the things was the key, too, was they put in a new wrinkle that I haven't seen a lot of teams do. They ran like a toss sweep, but it wasn't a toss sweep. They tossed the ball to Jalen Samuels, who had a dominant day, and it was the theme around the NFL, we're going to run the ball. But they allowed him, because they knew that New England would overflow, allowed him to be able to cut the ball back or read wherever the ball was going. This was a new wrinkle that they added to this game. They ran it a number of times, very, very successful. And their concept of we're going to out-physical New England. We're going to slow this game down. I don't care. They've changed the rules. The weather has changed. Now we're back to playing the NFL football that we're used to seeing. So I thought that the penalties by New England were a key to their overall sloppiness. And the new wrinkle that the Pittsburgh Steelers added with Jalen Samuels with this semi-toss to dominate in the run game. Those were two of the keys that led the Steelers to be able to get this upset win.
Wrinkle or no wrinkle, no one saw this game from Jalen Samuels coming. I know that because Jalen Samuels told Peter King late last night. Peter King asked him, when's the last time you had 19 carries in a game? Said never. Not even in high school. Never had a 100-yard rushing game in college or high school, because this is a guy who, if you're a fantasy player, you know this, he's listed as a tight end option. Like they are down so far on their depth chart. They have a guy who's never been a feature back at any point in his football life, get 19 carries and hit him for 142 yards. So that was enough for the Steelers offensively, because Big Ben wasn't particularly sharp. What you had said on Friday, that the Patriots were going to do everything they could to take Juju and AB out of the game. AB had the one big play. Juju had a chance at an amazing play late in the game. It got broken up, but they mostly did that. It was through the ground and with the tight ends how the Steelers moved the ball. But 17 points, I don't think any of us thought would be enough to win this game for either team. To me, the story was a Steelers defense that, aside from one play, where the bust.
Halfway through the first quarter.
Halfway through the first quarter.
Defensive backs of the Steelers ran into each other playing man-to-man. Tom Brady hits them for the big touchdown.
I mean, and you've got Hogan running as open as you will ever see a receiver run in the NFL. Next Gen Stats said he was literally the most open any receiver's been in 2 years in the NFL. Aside from that, that to me was the Steelers basically pitching a shutout. Like it was one on the last drive, Edelman got open deep and to put the Patriots in reasonable range to throw into the end zone. But the Steelers defense played a nearly flawless game, constantly pressuring Brady and making him skittish, which led to the most shocking moment of the game to me, which was Brady making a mistake that is so uncharacteristic of him, that interception when they were down just 4 late in the game, when they either would have gone for it, kicked a field goal, cut it to 1. You never see Brady make this mistake, much like you never see him make the mistake he made at the end of the first half last week against Miami.
In the mistake that he made, Brady was trying to throw the ball out of bounds.
Yep.
Because he was in the pocket. He knew he couldn't ground it. He knew he couldn't throw it to the yard marker. So because he couldn't step into the throw in drifting, his arm was not strong enough for the ball to be able to go out of bounds. That's what led to the interception by Joe Hayden.
So many things were uncharacteristic of both Brady and some of the decisions Belichick made, and the penalties. That's just all those pre-snap penalties. You kept hearing them time and time again, especially coming off of that Dolphins loss, where you thought this was going to be a buttoned-up team, and all those things were going to sort of be taken care of.
The only thing that was characteristic for the Patriots this year is this is not a good road team. Now, they haven't lost on the road because their offense has been bad. They've been losing on the road because their defense has been bad. But this is a team that has been awful on the road. They're 3-5 I would say they've played well on the road once, the Bears game, which now looks like one of the more impressive road wins all year. But their other two wins were a tight game in the third quarter against the Jets, a tight game in the third quarter against the Bills, and 5 losses. And this was a chance. Yes, it was an opportunity for the Steelers, and they had to take it. But for the Patriots, like, this was a chance to stay in the 2 seed, to stay alive for the 1 seed, to put their rival to bed in Pittsburgh, and they weren't able to do it.
First time since 2009, Pats finished the season under 500 on the road. All right, let's talk about this from the Steelers' perspective. What does this mean now for this team moving forward?
Can they do what Dallas did several weeks ago and go on that, like, defensive run? Remember, after the Thursday night game against the Saints, we were like, man, can they duplicate this? Jerry Jones is like, man, once you experience something like that, he said, he used the analogy of, it's like when you're poor and you finally get some money.
Yeah.
So the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have been rich for a long, long time, I think that this is a tremendous win for Mike Tomlin. We talked last week, Nick, about them only having 3 coaches in the last 50 years. Mike Tomlin will get some of that heat off of his back. But do you have any confidence they can do this in another 7 days? Do you think they can do this 2 weeks in a row? Do you think they can do it 3 weeks in a row? To me, it's a great game. But I wouldn't be betting on them being able to duplicate that defensive intensity that they could shut down a team like New England. They haven't been consistent, so I'm willing to bet that they're going to be inconsistent coming down the stretch. That's the reason why they're in the predicament that they're in now as far as must win the rest of the way.
I'm glad you mentioned Mike Tomlin. This is Mike Tomlin's 12th season as a coach, and this win here guarantees they will not have a losing record. He, of course, has never had a losing record. He now joins these 4 other men as the only coaches to ever start their head coaching careers with 12 seasons or more without a losing record. Marty Schottenheimer, Don Shula, George Allen, and all the way back, Curly Lambeau, who I'm pretty sure has a pretty famous field named after him. He's now on that list. It's one of the reasons why the Mike Tomlin hot seat discussion was always an absurdity. This team's never been bad under him, and I think yesterday was one of the single best defensive performances of the entire Mike Tomlin era in a must-win game for the Pittsburgh Steelers, since they are in New Orleans 6 days from.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.